So I'm officially in my 29th week of pregnancy, and all I can say is, man, it's going by way faster than the first time. I mean, when you're pregnant with the first, you have so many questions going on, so many fears, so many things that you're wondering, and so much excitement. So you're just like obsessed and you spend all this time on the baby. And second time around, you're like, I don't have time for this. I'm chasing after another one, and I got work to do, and yada, yada, yada. So the funny thing is, this time around, I remember getting the notice on my, like, congratulations, you're in your third trimester. And I was like, what? I thought I had one more month before I need to be in my third trimester. And so it was, yeah, it's just been going by super quick. I just have a few months left. I've just started walking, as my midwife has been wanting me to do. Terrible, I'm so much more terrible at taking my vitamins than I thought, but I'm finally like on board with that. I do not have my birth plan written out. Hopefully I can find my old one. I'm not prepared at all for this one, and definitely by the first one I was on my game. So yeah, so it's pretty interesting. But the good thing about it is that I am so much less stressed about this. You already know, but the second one you're like, I get it. I've been through labor, know what it's going to be like, and there's certain things that I want to plan for. But for the most part, it's all the surprise taken out of it. You can check out my belly. Ba-ba-da-dum-ba-dum. The amount of people who just see me from the front and they can't tell I'm pregnant, and then like 10 minutes into the conversation they go, oh my god, you're pregnant, I didn't even notice. So clearly it's just my side profile. I have gained 20 pounds, but I don't know where it went. Maybe like a pound in the boobs, and then everywhere else just the placenta. So now the reason I haven't really filmed a lot of weekly updates is because, to be honest, I haven't felt that much change. Now I'm finally, the belly starting to become like, I'm starting to feel the belly, but even then I feel like I should be bigger, and the baby's growing healthy. It's great. Actually, exactly on the same path to the T with my measurements and my weight gain as our first. Unfortunately, the midwife said that's not a good indicator of how big the baby will be, because that would be kind of fun to tell, because if that's the case, then it will be born 7 pounds. But there are random days that would happen, like once a month or once every couple weeks, I get this random day where my armpits just decide to be the stinkiest things in the world. And it's just for one day. It's so weird. And so I'll just have these one days of that, or one day where I just feel so incredibly dry. I do have some ear plugging, which I have two midwives. One of my midwives said something about, well, the midwife that I think that it's happening is, she says that it's a dehydration issue, and that it's the mucus in the inner ear is not thinning out enough. And so every time my ears plug, I go, okay, I'm supposed to kind of relax, maybe put my feet up, maybe I'm working too hard, and start drinking a little bit more water. So I've been using that as an indicator that I am not drinking enough water. Probably the most frustrating thing for me has been, I was never expecting to have no interest or very little motivation to eat food. You always think of the third trimester, especially when, like, first trimester, morning sickness, just get through it, survive it. Second trimester, you'll feel practically normal, back to eating whatever you want to eat. Third trimester is going to be when you start wanting to eat more, and then it's like you want to eat everything. That's kind of the way it was. And with my first, it wasn't like that. It was just normal. I just felt like second trimester the whole time. And so I was expecting that this time around, and I have no motivation to eat food. Like, my main source of protein has always been organic, grass-fed meat products, and it kind of grosses me out now. It has to be cooked. Sometimes my husband is a way better cook than me, and he will make a dish that I think, I'm like, oh, okay, and then I'll take one bite and go, oh, and then all of a sudden something clicks, and I'm like, oh, I'm hungry, and then I start eating tons. But to get to that threshold and to find food that I'm actually really enjoying, it's been surprisingly difficult, and I have no motivation to cook. And so it's crazy because I am so much more health conscious with the second one as far as what's needed to have a healthy, thriving baby, and I, in some ways, feel like I eat worse this time around. I'm really trying to I had a talk with my midwife, and I said, I'm getting a lot of anxiety because I feel like I'm failing really hard with not eating properly. And I said, what are your absolutes that if I can just do these things, and it was protein every 2 hours and stay away from sugar. And so those are kind of my main goals going into every day. Do I succeed 100% at these? No. But it does make me not feel bad that I'm not, if I had one extra slice of gluten that I probably shouldn't have, or something like that. Or maybe the cheese I ate is not organic, or whatever, So I am using that as a marker to not let me have anxiety, because that's probably going to be worse for the baby than anything. The second most annoying thing has been so much sciatic cramping, and I had this I've had this off and on, even not being pregnant, but I think the weight of the belly, and I think I might be off, so I'm going to be going to my Upper Cervical Chiropractor, which I don't often see, because I don't really like manipulation that often, but I think that Upper Cervical Chiropractors are much more gentle. They just do a little tap tap. There's no major cracking or anything, and so I'm probably going to go see him in a week or two, because he's a bit of a drive, and hopefully maybe that will help with some of the cramping, because it's definitely more on one side, but my hips and everything is so tight, and it gets so cramped to the point where it's hard to walk. And I have a tennis ball I roll out with, but as I'm progressing towards the later months where I'm increasing my walking and doing some minor exercises and whatnot, I'm going to try to see if I can start to be more active with the rolling out and the stretching. Other than that, I don't have any major solutions. I just have to deal with it on some days that it just starts to lock up on me. I used to be able to just pop a few ibuprofens and be fine, but I'm trying really hard to stay away from anything unnecessary. So I just roll out to the point where I can walk, and then go about my day. So a few notes as a dancer. Dancing's been a little bit tough, mostly because we've been focusing a lot on a dance called Shat, and it has a bit more bouncing than I do when I dance Lindy Hop. That has been a little bit tough, surprisingly, on the body. And if I do a little bit of solo jazz after maybe 20 minutes of practice, I am in so much, I just feel it. But I did try a belly band, because I thought, maybe with all the bouncing, maybe if I support the belly, it'll feel good. But the surprising thing about it was that the constriction, I guess, not letting my belly muscles stretch while dancing, for some reason it was causing cramping. And so that kind of sucks, because I really thought that was going to be a good solution. Another thing that is totally TMI, but for the life of me, dancing while wearing underwear is so itchy. So that's been fine, because at home I just dance commando, but I'm about to go to a dance event, so that's probably not going to work very well. So we'll see how this weekend goes, but yeah, it is not the most comfortable thing, unless any of you all know some incredibly comfortable, smooth, breathable, loose underwear that I have yet to discover for pregnant women. So far, that is what I do. One thing that's starting to get incredibly on my nerves is people cracking pregnancy brain jokes. My husband does this, and what's funny is I do get pregnancy brain, tons, and I can feel it when it's happening, but every time someone makes a comment, it's not when I'm feeling pregnancy brain. Usually it's when I just didn't understand a situation, but just because I'm pregnant, everyone started going, "Oh, it's okay, pregnancy brain." I'm like, don't make me sound like an idiot. So that's been super bugging me. And one last thing that I thought was really interesting, I'll make probably a separate video about this, is I went to a pelvic floor specialist, one that deals with moms and pregnant women, but I also just had a bunch of just general women questions. It's unfortunate that growing up you don't really have access to that kind of education, not in schools or not really online, unless you want to stumble across some porn site, at least when I was growing up. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna invest in the time to meet with a woman and have her check me out and talk about things, and maybe she can also give insight into preparing for birth and stuff. And so I will make a whole another video on that, but that's been really interesting. Mostly she just gave me exercises to strengthen the muscles all surrounding the pelvis so that the pelvis can release and relax. And so I think a lot of times you're told, do your Kegels, tighten, but a muscle can be either too tense or too relaxed, and your pelvic floor is just the same as any other muscle in the body. And so all these online advice to say do Kegels, you gotta do your Kegels, is most people, it's for most people actually not so accurate. So I'll make a video about that. So at this point, going forward, I talked to my midwife and I just said, look, what do I have to work on right now until this next appointment, which will be in about 1 month, about 30, sometime before my 36-week appointment. And she said, there's only really 2 things. Next month, you're gonna have to start, like, get your birth plan in order, start doing perineal massages, do all that kind of stuff. But only for the next month. The only thing you really have to do is, other than keeping track of your diet and your water intake, be on top of that. Ideally, if you can walk 3 miles 3 times a week. I believe that they really want you to walk 5 miles almost every day if you can. And I did that with the first, but like I said, I'm a little bit lazy the second time around. So 3 miles 3 times a week. And just slowly, she said, slowly start to maybe gather supplies. You have, I have a list because I'm planning to do a home birth, and so there's kind of a list of things you need. But even that, I'm probably just going to do all at once in a month. I'm probably not going to do that. So I'll just be eating healthy and walking for the next month before we get down to the countdown. All right, so hopefully some of that helps, and I guess I'll catch you on the next update.